Okay. Come back to you guys. Let me check out the chat. Who's here? Welcome, welcome, welcome. Okay. All right. You guys. Okay, I have to turn off my YouTube. I don't like looking at myself. All right, yeah. I don't know if anyone heard me. If you want to type into the chat who you are, where you're calling from, um, what you hope to learn today, anything like that. And yeah, our topic is brain inflammation. All right, I'm going to start the recording. Welcome, everyone. And we are doing a webinar today. I'm doing a webinar on inflammation in the brain. My name is Luminara Serdar, and I help overwhelmed, confused, frustrated, stressed out parents with their kids with autism to shift the behaviors into more calm connection and communication, doing this by getting at the root cause of what's happening in the body. So really digging into what is happening in biochemistry and internally. Thanks, Quilly. Keithy, I'm not sure how to say your name, from Washington State. Thanks for joining. All right. I promised you a couple of things in the email I sent out. So we're going to talk about 4 overlooked ways that the brain gets inflamed. And some of these are new to me. Like, I learn stuff all the time and I want to pass it on to you guys. And then I'm going to talk about 3 key foods that help decrease brain inflammation and 8 actions for you as a parent to take to help decrease your child's brain inflammation. And you can start these now. Quilly, thank you. And welcome Laura from Connecticut, Byron from Texas, and Kate from Minnesota. Hoping to learn about brain inflammation. You're trying energy enhancement system right now. I don't know about that. So if you want to type into the chat what that is, just for my own information, not inflammation. Okay, I just want to start with what can be happening in the brain. So we have neurons that connect and send messages, and we have these functions that our brain does. But did you know that 15% of our brain are microglial cells? And microglial is a different kind of cell other than neurons, and that's the immune system of our brain. So we don't have immune cells that normally get into the brain and send signals and cytokines and things like that for inflammation. Our microglial cells do that. And so this is the immune system of the brain, and their role is to detect threats. Is there a pathogen? Is there an injury? If someone has a traumatic brain injury or concussion, this is when they get called into action, and they start this inflammatory response. And the inflammatory response is a very helpful natural thing that our bodies do. It's where if you cut yourself, your inflammatory response will come to the rescue, right? If you cut yourself, we get red, we get heat, we get swelling, and that's the immune system cells going to work to clean out debris, get rid of infection, and to rebuild those cells so that your skin or wherever you cut yourself gets healthy again. If this happens in our gut, right, our gut lining is repairing all the time. Our mucous membranes are repairing all the time. So that would be our nose, that would be our mouth, that would be our gut lining, that would be the anus and the vaginal tissues. These are all mucus linings, and these epithelial cells inside the mucus linings will regenerate daily. So if you get a cut or a canker sore or something in your mouth, it heals pretty fast. If we have inflammation in the gut and a constant signal for inflammation, it doesn't heal as fast. This is one reason why we want to use some gut healing compounds, whether it's food or supplements, to help with inflammation. But we are talking about inflammation in the brain and how these microglia can become active and reactive, and they can have a habitual activation that they are continually in an inflamed state. And this can be to real threats, like if there's mercury in the brain or aluminum or some kind of pesticide, herbicide, or a virus or some kind of pathogen. So that can be a real reason why we need this inflammatory system to help get rid of that. But there are also perceived threats. Let's go back to, caveman days when we saw a lion or a tiger and we would run from it. That was a real threat, and that would get our adrenaline running and our sympathetic nervous system, our fight, flight, or freeze. Well, we can have that today in many stressful situations, but it's a perceived threat. So it's like the tiger's always there, but it's not really. And I want to mention these ways that these microglial cells can be activated in ways that maybe you've never thought of before. And one of those is through what comes in through the eyes. I've seen a lot of kids with autism, they look off to the side or they can't give you eye contact. I actually have an older adult friend, he's in his 60s, brilliant guy in the tech industry, but he's on the spectrum, he has Asperger's, and he told me that when he was a little kid, he couldn't look directly at someone because it was too much sensory information coming in through the eyes. So consider this, if your kids don't give you eye contact, it might be too much. And input through the eyes directly affects the brain. So if we have sensory overload, if the lights are too bright or flashing, or for whatever reason, for me, a strobe light might be too much information for my eyes coming in. But for our kids, it might just be trying to give you eye contact or trying to look outside. So this can be creating inflammation in the brain. What our visual input is giving us, it can be perceived as a threat. And then we have inflammation. What comes in through the ears, this is number 2, what comes in through the ears, like listening to the news. Is that scary? Listening about wars going on. What does that do to our brain? How does that activate our microglia and create inflammation? Videos, movies your kids might be watching. I have an example of my son when he's 25 right now, but when he was, I think, two and a half, he was going to daycare and he had this little friend that he liked to hang out with, and they had their own secret language and everything. So one day he went over to this friend's house and the mom put on a Winnie the Pooh video. And when I came to pick him up later, she told me that he got really upset by watching the video. And what was happening is Tigger was in the garden spraying like a can of pesticide and trying to kill the bugs and the pests. And my son got really upset at that. So just this minor kids video where, it was kind of a destructive thing. And I had never exposed my son to anything like that or harmful or, this violence kind of thing. I mean, it was violence in a way, but we think it's acceptable. So this really upset him. Did it create inflammation in his brain? I don't know. I don't have a way to measure that, but I keep thinking about that event where something was displeasing and it was, coming in his eyes. He was hearing it, whatever music or sound was coming in his ears. So, I'm thinking about noise. I've heard from parents that a lot of kids get really upset or hold their ears or can't handle like a vacuum cleaner, a blender, toilets flushing in a public bathroom, the hand dryers in a public bathroom. And I'll tell you, I see these sensory issues go down as we detoxify the brain and detoxify the body, and which is pulling, decreasing the inflammation. So think about these inputs, inputs into the eyes, inputs into the ears. Some kids have they're reactive to other sensory things. So is that creating inflammation in their brain? Okay. Smells, what comes in through our nose. I've heard from parents that some kids really love to smell like garbage or like certain smells they love, and some kids really cannot stand certain smells. So this is another form of input, and what comes in through our nose goes directly to our olfactory bulb, which goes to our primitive area of our brain so we can sense danger. So this can also be creating brain inflammation. So think about the senses. Touch, if our kids love touch, if our kids don't love touch, how does that play into brain inflammation? So these are just some things to become more aware about what inputs are going into your child sensorially. The other one is air pollution. So this is something, it can touch our skin, but mainly a smell, or it can come in our mouth. And this can create inflammation in the brain. It's been shown in autopsies of people who lived near polluted areas, who were exposed to more pollution, that they had greater brain inflammation. Now, we have no way of measuring these things while we're alive. A lot of this stuff is from autopsies, but it's good information for us to know. So how clean is your environment? How clean is your indoor air? I think about air fresheners, those plug-ins, the blue toilet thing that might have a smell, the air freshener that people spray in bathrooms. I've seen those, you put them in like a vase and they're sticks that there has some chemical in the bottom and they're like an aromatherapy. But we have to think about those artificial chemicals because they can create inflammation. They're not natural to how we evolved as humans. Essential oils, on the other hand, smelling a plant or a flower or a tree bark or like I like to go out on walks and rub my hand over lavender flowers. I like to pull off a little rosemary off the bush and smell it every time I walk by. I like to take a spruce leaf and open it up and smell it. These are all nature and we've evolved with these. They're natural. So essential oils, even though they're concentrated in the little bottle you get, I think are a better choice for air freshener. I've made a homemade one, like I know there's these ones called poo-pourri. So for the bathroom, I've made ones with natural oils like lemon or orange or rosemary or, some flower smell that I really like and use those instead. And we could be sensitive to those too. It just depends on what's going on for your child. And then another one I want to mention is diet. I talked about gut inflammation previously, and I won't go into it here, but gut inflammation also affects the brain. If our gut is inflamed, it's likely leaky, and chemicals are leaking, food chemicals, whatever we put in our mouth, are leaking out of the gut, and we probably have a leaky blood-brain barrier leaking into the brain as well. So we have these chemicals floating around. So what we eat can create inflammation both in the gut, it can be a source of inflammation in the brain, and then because it could disrupt our gut microbiome, that can be a source of inflammation as well, and leaky gut. So a diet that's high in processed and inflammatory foods would include sugar. Sugar is very inflammatory. Refined carbohydrates. So this would be your breads and your pastas and your gluten. And if you don't know, much of our wheat that's grown in the US, one, it's hybridized to have high levels of gluten, which is less natural for our body. And it's usually sprayed with glyphosate before harvest. And glyphosate is an antibiotic. It's patented as an antibiotic, and it also creates leaky gut. So if you're having non-organic wheat, which is so prevalent in our society, then it's likely you're creating inflammation, leaky gut, and inflammation in the gut, inflammation in the brain, and killing good microbes. So refined carbohydrates and even some gluten-free options are refined carbohydrates. Many of those are made with rice flours and also made with tapioca starch and potato starch. And these can also be easy sugar for the body. They convert into glucose right away, and that can raise our blood sugar and be nice food for the bad microbes and create inflammation, right? The inflammation comes not just from the foods, but from the disruption of the gut microbiome. Unhealthy fats like seed oils. So these would be soybean, corn, vegetable oil, these fake oils that have to be processed and highly refined. These definitely cause inflammation, not just in the gut, but all over the body. If we eat a lot of those oils, then those are the oils our body's taking and putting in our cell membranes, putting in our brain. And what they do is they cause the cell membrane to not be as flexible. Our cell membrane wants to be flexible to let things in and let things out. But if it gets stiff from these bad fats because it makes the cell membranes not operational, then we're not getting nutrients in the cells and we're not getting toxins out of the cells. It's kind of like the toll booth on a freeway, right? If you have to stop and put money in the thing like you used to do in the old days, now they have the fast track and you just have to go slow. But if the toll booth is backed up and there's a long line of traffic, not as many are getting through. It's a little bit of analogy for what may be getting through the cell membrane or may not be getting through. And these inflammatory molecules, of course, travel through the blood. And we absorb these when we eat. That's the whole idea of how we get our nutrients. So we want to be putting good things in there, and I'll talk about those in a moment. Yeah, I just want to reiterate that these inflammatory chemicals that are floating in the body, it can be from food, it can be those seed oils, it can be artificial colors and dyes, it can be artificial flavorings and preservatives. It can be pesticides, herbicides that are on our food. It can be plastics that we microwaved our food in. All of these are inflammatory to the brain. Heavy metals from breathing in the air, from in our food, from injections. Flu shots, I believe, have aluminum or mercury in them. So these are ways we can get all this stuff in our blood floating around and get to the brain and create this inflammation. Let's talk about 3 anti-inflammatory foods that I hope you're eating already. And if you're not, you want to be getting these into your kids. The first one is omega-3 fatty acids. So these are going to combat those bad fats. So even if your kids have eaten, chicken nuggets and French fries fried in soybean oil, and if you go out to eat, it's always the bad oils at every restaurant. I don't know any restaurant that uses good oils because it's expensive. So if you are not making your own and you are eating out at restaurants, I encourage you to stop getting the fried foods, stop getting the salad dressings. Those are mostly soybean and canola oil. Oh, canola is the other bad one I meant to mention. There's been a lot of disinformation about how that's good for you. It's not. So you want to stop with those inflammatory oils. And as you have more omega-3 fatty acids, so this comes from fish, comes from salmon, comes from cod, comes from marine algae. A lot of people don't have fish as a good part of their diet, so you can use fish oil. I like brands like Nordic Naturals, Barleans, Carlson's is a good brand. And if you want to head over to my Full Script online dispensary, I give a 10% discount on those. You'll have to sign up. So look at Full Script, Autism Transformed. Go ahead and if you haven't, sign up for my dispensary and you can order some of those good oils, or you get them from wherever your trusted place is. They're also in the grocery stores. So fats, that's a key one. And as we replace, good olive oil is good too, as well as eating avocados. So as we replace these nasty fats in the body with good fats, we see brain function coming online. We see greater health and we see reduced inflammation. Yeah, someone put a fish oil in the chat. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2, polyphenols. What are polyphenols? These are the compounds that give our fruits and vegetable color. So these would be carrots and tomatoes and red peppers and different berries, raspberries, blueberries, blackberries. And these are the bright, colorful ones that we want to have in our diet and eat because those are anti-inflammatory. However, you can sneak them in your kids' food. I like to cut up red peppers and have a dip, and you can do the same with carrots. So those are some really good foods to make sure you're getting in your child. It's great to do every day. If you have a picky eater, I understand that's a little more challenging. Blueberries are usually a love of people. And The only time I would caution against polyphenols is if your child has a phenol sensitivity, and then that's really a gut microbiome issue. So that can be taken care of, but you may need to have a low phenol diet for a while. Otherwise, good for all of us. Um, I'll tell you a story about my son just because it's about blueberries. When I wanted to be done nursing him, he was almost 2 years old. I gave him a choice of the breast or little blueberries and raspberries and little cereals. At the time, I didn't know better about cereal. And he chose the blueberries and he chose the little goodies and he never looked back. He never breastfed again. So his love was of blueberries and he still loves them to this day. And I think the body knows what it needs too. So that's a cute little story about him. All right, that's the second one. We have omega-3 fatty acids. We have polyphenols in bright fruits and vegetables, and then prebiotics and probiotics. And you can get this in yogurt and kefir and kombuchas and kimchi, sauerkraut. Those are the good probiotics. And prebiotics are what feed the good gut bugs in your body. If you're looking at a supplement, this is usually inulin or chicory fiber. But there are also foods that have these naturally. And some of these foods include apples, avocado, asparagus. So these are, some of your more fibrous stuff. Jicama, and I love to cut up raw jicama and have that with a dip. And it's almost tasteless. It's watery and juicy, and it provides a good prebiotic. Leeks, onions, and garlic. So if you're cooking with those, oats have some beta glucans, which are a little bit of a prebiotic. I don't think that's the best one, but beta glucans are great for the body. Yams, bananas, flax, and chia seeds. I think these are underrated and underused. These can also be at least, so if you put a teaspoon of flax seeds in water or chia seeds, it gets goopy. It makes a mucousy kind of mix. That can be used for constipation, the chia seeds. And then I've used the flax seeds, that goopy mix, instead of eggs in vegan dishes, like in vegan baking. So, and they have such good oils. They have those omega-3 fatty acids too, and they feed the good microbes. Other ones are carrots and radish. I know radish is a strong flavor, so most kids probably won't eat it, but some kids love those strong flavors. So try it. Coconut meat and coconut flour are good prebiotics, and tomatoes. All right, I touched on this earlier. So those are our three foods. Let me just wrap that up. We have omega-3s, polyphenols, prebiotics, probiotics. So those are the things you want your child to be eating every day that are going to help reduce inflammation, both in the gut and the brain. I touched on media exposure before. So you as a parent, even if you're watching the news or if you're getting kind of toxic input through your eyes, that might be stimulating a reaction in you, and our kids feed off of us. This is one thing I really want to emphasize, is that whatever we're doing, feeling, experiencing energetically, our kids are like just mirroring us. Number one, we have mirror neurons. So when we look at someone, like if your child is watching you, let's say chop carrots, they're already learning how to chop carrots, right? Because they're getting that input through their brain and their mirror neurons are working. Even if we think about an activity, it helps enhance that activity in us as adults. So what's coming in your eyes, what's happening in your brain, and what's happening in them. So you might have a reaction. Let's say you're watching some bad news on TV or on some video or some app, and you start getting agitated and nervous. Your child will pick up on that energy. So they see, but they also feel emotionally and energetically. So whatever can be disturbing, intense, scary, and even Tigger and the Winnie the Pooh killing animals in the garden, killing bugs, can be scary, right? Even having an ice cream cone and this happened to my son one time, and then it falling off can be traumatic, right? Because then you don't have your ice cream anymore. So we need to think about these little things that could be affecting our kids. Video games. things on the internet, even little games that might be helping your kids learn, think about how benign they are or how scary they might be. Okay, how are we going to help our kids? How are we going to help brain inflammation? Well, we want to stop toxic foods. I mentioned the oils, I mentioned gluten. You can also go to the environmental working group and look up the Dirty Dozen, and they have the dozen most pesticide sprayed kind of dirty foods. So I would avoid those in non-organic form and make sure to get those in organic form as much as you possibly can. And then they have the Clean 15, which tells you what are the cleanest foods. So eggplant is one of them. So I will frequently get eggplant non-organic because I know it's pretty safe. Is anything safe in this day and age? We have to like think what's safe, what's safer, what's, you do your best to optimize for the cleanest food. So one of the things that I really encourage though is clean meat and clean fish. I would not buy farm raised fish because of what they feed them. And I would not buy regular meat. I would buy pasture raised meat and eggs, pasture raised, organic. I like lamb because I know they go out and graze on the grass. I don't know if they're fed extra food, but I see them along the freeway grazing on the grass all the time. I think it's probably one of the cleanest meats you can buy. So get clean meats. You don't want to have growth hormones. You don't want to have antibiotics. You don't want to have sick animals. So that's the one thing I would encourage, that you get the cleanest meat possible. We need to fix the gut, of course, and the prebiotics, probiotics helps with that, but maybe you want a gut test. Maybe you want to see what's in your child's gut. And we definitely want to create a good microbiome environment with getting rid of the bad guys, increasing the good guys. Why are the bad guys there? One, because of what we're eating, right? These inflammatory foods. But two, because there's probably chronic infections and toxins in our kids that are continual, and parasites is one of them. And so we keep this kind of system by feeding carbs and by not detoxifying. Most of our kids are poor detoxifiers and their systems aren't working well. So my next suggestion for that, in addition to fixing the gut, is I have the Transforming Autism Jumpstart program, which helps kids, first of all, clear out their colon, gives them energy to do the work, cellular energy, and it binds up those toxins. So we start getting the kids moving in the right direction. And in that process, when I have people join that program, I customize their protocol, and we're working on the gut, we're working on the microbiome. And one of the things we're working on in a big way is getting toxins out of there. And that helps a lot to adjust the good guys, bad guy ratio in the gut. I will put a link in the chat to that program if you guys have any inclination to sign up. I have had 100% of the people who join, who followed my instructions, their customized instructions, have seen changes in their kids. They've seen in their speech, more interaction, less fear, less anxiety, better sleep, a whole host of things. So we don't just it's a customized protocol so that you guys actually are going to see results. All right. And after that, we transition people into our longer program, because 1 month, this is a 1 month program, 1 month does not fix the gut. It's a step in the right direction, but to bring the toxins out, to help your kids detox better, to help your kids drain all the toxins out, it's a process and it takes a little while. Okay, so we're stopping toxic foods, we're fixing the gut. We have the Transforming Autism Jumpstart program. And then I talked about kids co-regulating with parents. I didn't say it quite that way, but what you're doing, feeling, emitting energetically, your kids will try and get in resonance with you. They will co-regulate. So this is where you come in as the parent. You need to help yourself to help your kids. So what can we do? we want as much as possible to be calm, grounded, joyful. It psychologically soothes your child, and that helps to minimize inflammation, believe it or not. So one of the things I like to recommend is breathing. I like the 4-6 count breathing. And if you do this while you're sitting next to your child, maybe doing kind of a parallel play thing, maybe you're both reading books, maybe you're just both sitting there watching a video. So you would breathe in for 4 counts and breathe out for 6 counts. Don't worry if you can't breathe in for 4 counts, you breathe in for 2 or 3 or 5 or whatever it is, but you're always going to breathe out for 2 counts longer than you breathe in. And what I find is doing this 3 times at least is very magical. It just really helps settle my body. Let's just try it once. So let's breathe in for a count of 4. And then breathe out for a count of 6. And what you want to do, even in my head, I say, okay, I'm letting go. I'm letting go. I'm letting go as I'm breathing out. And your child will start breathing with you like that. They will co-regulate. The trick is remembering to do it. So maybe you want to practice it throughout the day. Give yourself little alarms on your phone to say, okay, this is when I'm practicing breathing. Practice standing in line at the post office. Practice waiting while you're waiting for your child in therapy or waiting in the school pickup line. Meditation. So this is for you, parents. Even if you do it 5 to 10 minutes a day, you are calming your body. And again, your child's going to co-regulate with you. If there's chaos and stress and you're in your morning, you're trying to get out of the house, maybe you try and find a moment for that breathing, or you try and find a moment to meditate. Even meditate with your child. You have a quiet time during the day and say, we're just going to sit and just be. And I'm going to meditate. And what that means is I'm just going to be here and close my eyes and get calm. And your child will most likely understand that, even if not in the brain logically, mentally, they'll understand it emotionally and psychically and energetically. So I would suggest maybe in the morning and maybe before you go to bed, do 5 minutes of meditation. Shared activities. This is what I call parallel play with parent-child. It can be reading. It can be just sitting side by side. It can be some other thing that you're doing. But when we have our babies, we have nap time. And in daycare, they have nap time. In kindergarten, they have rest time. And usually this time between 3 and 4 in the afternoon is kind of a downtime, a rest time. So why not have that as a regular thing in your house where you have downtime, your child has downtime, and it's just rest time. It's just quiet time. Another thing is getting adequate sleep. I don't know if I said that already, but sleep is so important. I'm working on that for myself right now. I was so burned out the last couple of years, and I'm taking adrenal support, and I am committed to getting into bed by 10 o'clock and sleeping as much as possible, and it's working. So I encourage that for you as much as you possibly can. Community. So community is really important. Time with your friends, time with your siblings, your raised adult siblings, time with your partner. Even if your kid's around, make sure that they know that community is important. Tribe is important. We can't do everything alone. Time with friends lifts us up spiritually and energetically, reminds us we're not alone, and we need that connection. And your child will be learning from you as he or she sees you in community. Physical touch. I love this bonding with kids to the degree that your child likes or doesn't like touch. I've heard from parents who their kids love squeezing and touching, and kids who like, don't touch me. So you can get down on the floor, crawl around with your child. I always liked rolling around with my son and I didn't roll on top of them. I kind of did, but I didn't squish them, but just kind of rolling like little sausages on the floor. A lot of physical time, holding hands on walks, or, just sitting side by side, touching your arms, touching your legs. It's really nourishing. I used to make up a lot of games with my son. We always played hide and seek or run away or, whatever it was. So this kind of engagement and touch and catching, I would always catch them and throw them around or spin them around, to the degree that your child likes that. So these are some things. I'm going to review those, what to help to stop brain inflammation, believe it or not. So we're stopping toxic food. We're getting help to fix the gut if you need help. If you don't need help, great. If you've got that covered, awesome. We have the Transforming Autism Jumpstart program. I have the link to that in the chat. We have breathing, stopping to breathe and practicing that. We have meditation. So these are things that help mom and dad, which help our kids. Sleep, making sure you get enough sleep, shared activities, that downtime in the day, being with community, and physical touch. That's what I've got for you today. Brain inflammation is so prevalent. It's so key. It goes with inflammation throughout the body, inflammation in the gut. This is why fixing the gut is huge and diet is huge. I'm going to stop there. And if anybody wants to ask questions about anything I've said, I'm totally open to answering. And in the meanwhile, I am going to check the chat to see if there were any questions. Okay. Oh, thank you, Kate, for explaining what the energy enhancement system is. It's using scalar waves. I use scalar waves all the time. Well, I think we're always emitting waves of intention, which are scalar. And that's another thing. You can just intend things for your child. I have told parents that when kids go to sleep, you're putting them in the bed, you intend they have a good night's sleep. You really feel love from your heart to them. They pick up on this stuff. Great. There was the fish oil in the chat, the Jumpstart Transforming Autism Jumpstart program. Fenella, there will be a recording on YouTube. Fenella, can brain inflammation cause non-epileptic seizures? It's probably involved. I don't know a whole lot about seizures. I actually have a suspicion, and I have absolutely no research on this, but I've had indications from other people and other practitioners that parasites can be involved in seizures and toxins not leaving the brain. But I imagine that inflammation is a piece of that, but I don't have the research on that. But Quilly does. Neuroinflammation, a signature or a cause of epilepsy. So you've done your research. Thanks for sharing that. All right. If there's no other questions, I would love to hear what you may have gotten out of today. Was this helpful for you? Did you learn something new you haven't learned before? What are you going to go and do today? All of these things I've given you, you can start right now. You can start today. So what are you going to do? What resonated the most with you? What's exciting for you? I know it takes a moment for my voice to get to you and for you to type in. So, okay. Michael says, you can stop a grand mal, the sooner the better once it starts. Press your thumbnail very forcefully above the upper lip, parallel to the upper lip. Okay. Good tip. Quilly, always a blessing. Everything you said is true. My son is enjoying college because of these changes. Oh, wonderful. I'm so excited for you. Thank you. And for him, thank you for sharing that. You've done your work, Mama. You are so welcome. All right. Let's just check YouTube, see if anyone's got anything. Okay, don't see anything in the chat there. Oh, wait, I do. Please talk about vagus nerve and red light therapy. My son pops all day. My son pops all day most days. Oh, poops. Thank you. All day. Would that be constipation? Kay Wilder. I would check usually C. difficile, which is a microbe that makes us have a lot of diarrhea. I don't know if you've done a gut check on him. I would think that in his microbiome, he's got some dysbiosis, he's got some more bad guys, less good guys. And it could be constipation, like he could be obstructed and then just little watery stuff is getting through. Please check with your practitioner. I would also recommend for you and for anyone actually a castor oil pack using organic castor oil. You put it on cloth and you put it over the liver and over the intestines. This helps so much with constipation. The people in my program are saying how much it helps, and consistency helps. So doing it every day, like for an hour. Let me get back to Kay. Nazi from Riverside, please talk about vagus nerve and red light therapy. Well, the vagus nerve is a cranial nerve, and it comes down the side of our neck and innervates our chest organs and our abdominal organs. You can do some rubbing back here to help with vagus nerve regulation. You can do humming and gargling. Those both help, and that helps to regulate. Your vagus nerve can be stuck in like a kind of a fight or flight mode as well. There are vagal nerve stimulators. I say, why not just do some massage? But there are actual devices that will do give a frequency here, and I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head. Red light therapy is amazing because what it does is it gets deep in the cells and it gives energy to the mitochondria, which gives energy to the whole cell, so the whole cell functions better. And someone who's really great with this, I am not an expert in red light therapy, but Ari Witten at the Energy Blueprint is really amazing. He has a download, like a 47-page red light therapy download, and he talks about this for energy. And why do we want energy in the body? Because it fuels everything our cells do. There's likely toxins. A lot of our kids have mitochondrial dysfunction, which means we're not producing enough energy to do the regular cellular functions. And what that means is we're only doing the most basic survival needs to get by. We don't have extra energy to detox. We don't have extra energy to do a lot of cellular functions. So that's where that red light therapy comes in. It helps with the mitochondria, but we need to actually get the toxins out of there. That's what we do in our programs. Chiquila, good to see you here. I want to know about the hydroxygen. Hydroxygen was a product by Cellcore Biosciences. They don't sell it anymore. Hopefully they'll get it back in. I know they have some issues with what's in it and FDA labeling. Hopefully they'll have it back. Ibiata, what do you think about hyperbaric oxygen? I think it's a good therapy. I think it's helpful because more oxygen helps with it gives us energy in our mitochondria, it gives us energy in our cells, and it helps decrease inflammation. But the downside of hyperbaric oxygen is you only have that extra oxygen when you're in that tank, and it takes a lot of time in there. I mean, people have seen amazing results, but I think there's got to be a better way. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying you have to spend a lot of time in the oxygen chamber, which takes a lot of time out of your day. Most kids won't go in there by themselves, and a parent has to go in with them. That's what I've heard from my parents who've done it. Okay. Sandy, this was great reminders. I don't know that these activities directly impact brain inflammation. Makes sense. Thank you. Oh, I didn't know. Okay. Thank you. And Michael's putting some good information in the chat. Jane, could you just mention the name of the person center that does the red light therapy again? Yes, his name is Ari Witten. I'll type it into the chat. Ari Witten, and it's The Energy Blueprint. And I think that might be the website, theenergyblueprint.com, but you can just Google that and get that information. And he's got podcasts, he talks a lot about red light therapy. So that would be your go-to resource for that. All right. Yeah, Michael's saying that you can purchase in near infrared light array on Amazon for less than $40 a unit. I would just check it out that it really does what it says it's doing. I wouldn't trust anything made in China necessarily because we know they don't have the same manufacturing standards. So just check out your resource. Etsy says, my grandson is a living example how transformative an organic, plant-based, and gluten-free, casein-free diet can be. He went from no eye contact and zombie-like to normal eye contact and now is very affectionate. Yay, Betsy, thank you so much for sharing that. We see that 80% of kids on the spectrum who go gluten and dairy free just change within a few days, get better. Gluten can be very constipating, so can dairy. And so, this mama, Kay Wilder, if your child's not gluten free, dairy free, that's one of the first things I would recommend. Cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here. You keep me going. You keep me motivated because my task and mission is to help people, help kids become more functional because they are our future. If 1 in 33 kids has autism in 2 generations, what kind of a society are we going to have? This is why I do this work. Um, Yes, Michael, that's a great statement he made that kids need more interpersonal contact instead of days filled full of electronics. As a tongue twister for me today. Instead of days full of electronics. That is so true. And we need to get out in nature. That helps calm and soothe us as well. So awesome information, everyone. And thanks for that story, Betsy, about your grandson. I want to show you that there's hope and there's healing, and our kids can be more functional. And we're all a part of this movement. And get out there and spread it as much as possible. Yes. Thank you all. Have a great day.